Hello everyone. My name is Vincent Gros. I work for Hachette Livre for more than 10 years now. I'm a tech guy. I love coding. I love working in the dark. So if you don't know me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can see what I'm doing for Hachette. Today I will talk about accessibility metadata. And I love the last presentations, the last title, which was the accessibility clock is ticking. So let's imagine we are fighters, like a boxing match, and we will have some rounds to do to win the accessibility match, and we'll see what we can do about accessibility metadata. So before talking about what we have done at Hachette, just about accessibility metadata, there's two locations when we talk about accessibility metadata. The first one is within EPUB using the schema.org. You heard about that in the previous presentations. So you use schema.org within EPUB to indicate the accessibility features you can have inside your EPUBs. That's the first location. And of course, the second location is in ONIX, and we use ONIX to indicate metadata to stores, so that's an important one. And we will see what we can do within EPUBs and within ONIX. Of course, there are standards and references. Now you know, thanks to Gregorio and previous speakers, the different standards we can have about accessibility, about EPUB, about ONIX as well, and so on. When we talk about accessibility metadata, it's one of the responsibilities for publishers to help discovery of accessible ebooks. For now, we don't know which EPUB is accessible on the stores, and we have to provide metadata, accessibility metadata, for the stores and for the end users as well. So before accessibility, years ago, when we started to work a lot about EPUB 3 and even EPUB 2 and more, to explain what we have at Hachette, there's three existing systems. Basically speaking, there are three existing systems. The first one is the asset management system, where you manage and store EPUB files. The second one is about metadata management system. And these two systems send metadata and EPUB files, and the package is used by the delivery management system to send ONIX plus EPUB to ebook stores. At the input of our asset management system, we use all the checking tools you have in the market. So the most important one is EPUB check, of course. We also have Transporter for Apple, Kindle Previewer for Amazon, and we added Hachette-specific controls for retrocompatibility between EPUB 3 and EPUB 2, and for the quality, to be sure we have a high quality of production for our EPUB 3. So we have all these tools at the input of the asset management system, but we don't know, using these tools, if an EPUB is accessible or not. And when we talk about accessibility and accessibility metadata, when we started to work on accessibility metadata years ago, it's like we have a chicken or the egg situation. So who or what comes first? Authors and publishers, EPUB producers, distributors, stores, reading systems. At that time, we didn't know. And the punchline, the conclusion for Hachette is, why wait? Do it now. And we decided to be as accessible as possible, so years ago, and we still want to do that today. And the first step we did is to add ACE, the tool made by Daisy, to check a certain level of accessibility inside EPUBs. So you can see in the schema, now we have EPUB with accessibility in orange. We don't know what level of accessibility we have, because ACE can't check all the accessibility within EPUBs, but we know that we have accessibility metadata inside EPUB, and we have some features in EPUB. But if you check the metadata management system, we don't have accessibility information inside our metadata system because it was not able to manage accessibility at that time. Because it was expensive, because there's a specific roadmap internally for that, and so on and so on. So for now, we have EPUB with a certain level of accessibility, and we don't have accessibility metadata in ONIX. The problem with ACE is that some important information is not checked or not completely checked by ACE. For example, at Hachette, we love to be very specific. We have specification for that. And there's some requirements for accessibility and for quality. And we want to check this information within EPUBs. Using ACE, we can check all the consistency between metadata, accessibility metadata in OPF, and content documents. So if you put accessibility metadata inside the OPF file, ACE doesn't check if it's the reality in content documents. So that's one problem, and we want to check that using our different tools. Of course, about alt text, it's a really difficult topic, and ACE can't check alternative text because an alternative text can be empty if it's a decorative image. An alternative text can contain incorrect descriptions, and ACE can't evaluate the quality of the description of the alternative text. What ACE cannot check completely is the languages, the information you can provide in content documents at the individual words or sentences or paragraphs. So there's no language detection made by ACE, and some specific tests not done by ACE about math and visualization data. So there's a gap we have to fulfill. So with ACE, we added Hachette-specific controls about accessibility. Not only accessibility metadata, but accessibility in general. And at this time, we know in our EPUBs that some kind of images, some images can have a very specific alternative text. So we specify the alternative text. We added the control of these alternative texts in our Hachette-specific controls, and we were able to know if an EPUB was at a certain level of accessibility or not, thanks to our controls. So now the EPUB with accessibility is not in orange, but in green. We have EPUB with accessibility and accessibility metadata, and we can deliver these EPUBs to ebook stores. But we still have a problem about ONIX, about metadata. We still don't put the accessibility information inside ONIX. So we have 3 existing systems: metadata management system, the asset management system, and the distribution system. And none of them is able to analyze the EPUBs to know the level of accessibility we can have inside EPUBs and to send this level of accessibility through ONIX files. We have 2 ways to solve this problem. The first is to wait, and we don't want to wait. And the second one is to use one project we have at Hachette Livre. This is the eBook Factory. And the eBook Factory does what other systems cannot do, or not completely. It's a framework written completely in-house, so the code is made by Hachette. It's an agile project, so if there's evolution, for example, about accessibility summary, we can update the framework and we can be ready for any guidelines, any news about accessibility summary. It's easy to update and easy to maintain. I can talk about it technically, but trust me, it's easy to update and maintain. Because we are aware of any evolutions on specification, it's up to date regarding specification. It means EPUB 3.3, last version for EPUB accessibility, and so on and so on. Last but not least, it's customizable for many use cases, and not only accessibility. I will talk about it in another slide. So we have the eBook Factory. Can the eBook Factory read information within EPUBs? Yes. Can eBook Factory send this information as ONIX or as a block of ONIX information? Yes. So we added the eBook Factory before the COVID, so about 3 to 2 years ago, the eBook Factory inside this schema. So we still have the 3 existing systems, which are the asset management system, the metadata management system, and the delivery management system. But now we have the eBook Factory related to these systems. The EPUB stored in the asset management system, the EPUB files are sent to the eBook Factory. We can read, and even more, EPUB inside using the eBook Factory. After that, we send accessibility metadata through our metadata management system. And now the metadata management system is able to send metadata to the delivery management system with accessibility. So all the schema is in green now. There's no orange, no red. All is OK. Everything is OK. And we can send ONIX plus EPUB files, so ONIX with accessibility metadata to stores, and EPUB files with accessibility metadata, and of course, it's accessible EPUBs to eBook stores. So now we are OK for the Hachette perspective. So we can check EPUB using ACE and Hachette specific controls. We can evaluate accessibility metadata and accessibility using the eBook Factory. We can share accessibility through accessibility metadata using ONIX. So we're OK. More about the eBook Factory. So it's a great framework. I know it because I wrote it. What we can do with the eBook Factory, we can also add accessibility in EPUB 3. If you have an EPUB 3 without accessibility, we can add accessibility using the eBook Factory. Until a certain level, of course, we can't add all the alternative text, for example, for images. We can make EPUB samples for reflowable and for fixed layout. We can fix most common warnings and errors we saw during all the experiences we did and all the the feedback we can have for EPUB, from EPUB producers. A work in progress, but really interesting one, we can convert EPUB 2 with great quality. It's important to have great quality in EPUB 2 to do that, to EPUB 3. And because we can convert EPUB 2 to EPUB 3, and we can add accessibility in EPUB 3, we can convert EPUB 2 to accessible EPUB 3 using the eBook Factory. That's a big one. It's still a work in progress, but I'm sure we can do something about it. And we can innovate. It's important at Hachette to innovate using some features, some stuffs in natural language processing and computer vision. For example, we can identify some kind of images, and we can detect the language for individual words, sentences, and paragraphs. That's a big one as well. So we are fighters. We're in the match to win the accessibility, and it ain't over until the bell rings. So we have a lot to do until 2025. But for accessibility metadata, it's OK for Hachette. Thank you.
Merci, Vincent. Great presentation. Very interesting. So you see that the architecture of something that adds metadata to content is not so easy to put in place. And
yeah.
maybe only
a lot of heroes to represent them.
And you're a big and technical group, so for small publishers, it's another matter.
Yes.
I've got a first question. ACE is not something that should be used as an automatic tool. It does give reports, but for humans more than for machines. So it's not a judge of accessibility that can be totally automatic. How do you use that? Is there somebody who is looking at the ACE report and retrofitting modifications?
Yes. All the schema I presented is automatically done. So we use ACE automatically. We have some logs in the output, and we can use it in different ways. The most important one is emails for EPUB producers, but for us, we can use it and fix what ACE can check, can provide. Yeah. So the JSON output of ACE is really important to do that, of course. And we follow the issue tracker to be sure. For example, there's 1 month ago, there was a topic about the language, the description of the language at the package level for the OPF file, at the level of the package element. And using the eBook Factory, we collect all the EPUB in our asset management system. We check that, and we are ready. If ACE is ready tomorrow, we already know what we can do, how many EPUBs we have with this problem.
So does it mean that for Hachette, converting the backlog of EPUB 2, the old one, is a piece of cake?
No. No, because of two things. The first thing is old EPUB 2 are bad quality EPUB. And that's very difficult to add EPUB type values and ARIA wall on EPUB. You can't detect any logical structure. So that's the main problem. And for now, we don't know how we can do it. And the second problem is all the things I presented is at scale. So we have thousands and thousands of EPUBs. So there's performance issues, there's time, and so on and so on.
Are there some questions? Yes, Gregory, and then you.
I'm quite interested in the magical function to remediate automatically files and making them fully, and improving accessibility. Can you explain a little bit how it works? And what is your starting point? I mean, is it XML, structure, is it plain HTML?
All the work we can do with the eBook Factory for the different tasks I mentioned, is about from EPUB to EPUB. EPUB is a great structured content if the quality is high, and that's the case for Hachette, thanks to the controls, all the tools we use in the past and we still use today. So based on that, we are able to read an EPUB. We know the structure because of all the tools we use, and we can convert it or modify it or fix it.
If I understood, it's something like you used always the same class for headings or something like that, CSS class or something like that for adding a role to the heading, and you now transform it to the correct heading or something like that.
Yes, technically we can talk about it.
Okay.
If you need to know more about it. Yeah, but it's a framework written in Python language, and we use oriented object. We have a specific description of all the information, and we base that on the JSON region manifest. So it's an extension of the region manifest, but we use it as a pivot file, and we store them, and we are able to do some stuff. Yeah, we can talk about it.
I'm curious. When you start with an EPUB 2 and convert it to EPUB 3, the EPUB 3 is really an enhanced version. Does it get a new ISBN?
Sorry, I didn't.
Does it get a new ISBN, the EPUB 3 version?
We use ISBN for EPUB 3.
Yeah, but it's a different one than the EPUB 2 version?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So if we have a new file, a new file with a new cover and so on, we use a different ISBN. If it's the same ISBN and it was in EPUB 2, we will convert it as an EPUB 3, update the information in ONIX, and send it using the same ISBN. So it depends on the cases you can have.
Any other question? No. The last one. Do you open source all this?
That's a great question. For now, it's not open source, but I can talk about it, and the discussion is open source.
That's good.
General question, not specifically for you, Vincent. Are there any platforms ready to accept the accessible metadata today? Yes.
Before the answer from Demarc, we check that for the main stores, for example, Amazon and so on. And for now, because we have accessibility metadata, so we can check using our titles if there is something new or not. And for now, there's no displaying of what we sent using ONIX on the main stores. I don't know for the little ones or not in the French market.
Yes, so okay, so we adapted our distribution platform at the beginning of last year to be able to accept all ONIX accessibility metadata. So we do that. So if you send it to us, we will accept it. We will make it available to retailers, but there is almost no retailer that accepts it right now. It's still a work in progress. We are in the works to display it in our own ecosystem, in our own marketplace, e-lending solutions. But for other stores, it's still very soon. And we need to do we need to train them to do so.
The clock is ticking.
Hello. Thank you for your slides. I understand. Do you think is there any chance to implement some accessibility feature in some of the EPUB 2, do you think that you're going to have to convert all the EPUB 2 of your backlist?
Yeah, for now, it's a technical choice. We don't want to add accessibility inside EPUB 2. We prefer to convert EPUB 2 to EPUB 3 because there's not only accessibility but other improvements using EPUB 3 compared to EPUB 2. So we work on the conversion. After that, if we have an EPUB 3, we know we can add accessibility. So that's the goal we want to reach.